As you can see, this is the notice for the Board of Directors meeting tonight. This is in the Bristol building, and now the time is 10:12 a.m. on March 9th. This is now the Chase building, the bulletin board. Again, this notice was not placed at least 14 days or mailed or delivered to the unit owners. This was placed probably last Friday or Saturday. I also want you to notice that it's only these three people as Board of Directors.
156.
11:05. The secretary of the meeting is going to be Don Perry. Would you call the roll, please?
Nancy Feenan.
Present.
Leslie Dean.
Present.
Harold Willard.
Present.
Tony Rubio.
Yes, present.
Scott Perry, present.
Proof notice of the meeting.
Yes, I have it.
Nancy? May I just read this? There will be a meeting of the Board of Directors of River Shores Association on Thursday evening, March 9th, 2000 at 7 p.m. in the Middle River Clubhouse. The purpose of this meeting is to reinstate the amendment to Article 7 of the River Shores Declaration of Condominium documents dated May 12, 1980 concerning the harboring of pets. Do we have the affidavit? No, the affidavit for the posting of the meeting of the...
It's on every board.
You do not have an affidavit for the posting? Okay.
If I do, I have it upstairs. We lost 2 sheets of paper on Saturday. We will go upstairs and find them after this.
Okay.
Can all these people attest to it?
File a notice of the meeting. Is there a quorum present?
Yes.
The quorum being present, the meeting will continue. Present the minutes of the last meeting, please.
These are them?
Yeah.
Can we waive it?
Will they be waived? Reading be waived?
No.
If there's no objection,
I'd like them read, please.
the file.
I'll read them.
Read the meeting.
Minutes, Board of Directors meeting Wednesday, December 29th, 1999. Meeting was called to order by Vice President Nancy Feenan at 8 p.m. Secretary of the meeting, Dorothy Perry, called the roll. Harold Willard, President. Nancy Feenan, Vice President, present. Leslie Dean, Treasurer, present. Tony Rubio, Assistant Secretary, present. Proof of notice of meeting was presented and placed in the file with the minutes. The Vice President announced she would be running the meeting since the President had just returned from the hospital. She then asked if a quorum was present. A quorum of the Board of Directors was present, so the meeting continued. The Vice President asked the Secretary to read the minutes of the previous meeting held December 2nd, 1999. The Secretary read the minutes, which were approved without additions or corrections. There being no objections, the minutes were filed as presented. The Vice President asked for any reports from the officers. There being none, she announced this meeting would be run by Robert's Rules and requested that any questions raised by the board members be held at this time and addressed later under item 14, unfinished business. So the board could proceed directly to the purpose of this meeting, namely to address the plumbing issue, contracts and assessments and schedules. The Vice President outlined the existing problems with the plumbing, the repeated breaking risers, and flooding of apartments. 5 plumbing companies had been contracted, but only 3 had responded with bids, namely 4-Star Plumbing, Frenzel Plumbing, and Pro Plumbing. The Vice President outlined the responsibilities of the plumbing contractors, which are stated in the contract, and the responsibilities of the owners, which will have their closets emptied and accessible when required. Then, after the work has been done, the owners are responsible for any painting needed on those parts of the walls directly affected by the plumbing work. Mrs. Dean stated schedules will be posted on the bulletin boards in advance of when the work will be started in the individual buildings. She went into detail on how the work will progress and stated that the water will shut off during the day and turn back on at the end of the day in each building that is being worked on. Mrs. Dean stated schedules will be posted on the bulletin boards in advance of when the work will be started in the individual buildings. She went into detail on the work will progress and stated that the water will be shut off during the day and turn back on the end of the day in each building that is being worked on. That looks redundant. Oh, there's more?
Yeah,
Oh,
right here.
it's just not
All right,
printed.
several questions were raised from the floor and responded to by the Vice President and President. A main concern was access to the individual apartments when the owner was not present. It was stated that access to each apartment must be made available, and it was the owner's responsibility to secure any items they feel uncomfortable about. It was stated that this is a reliable firm we are hiring, and they have been checked out thoroughly and have excellent recommendations. Plumbing inspectors will be checking the work as it is done. Mrs. Dean made a motion to go forward with the plumbing contract and to raise the money through a special assessment of approximately $181,000. Mrs. Perry seconded the motion and called the roll. Mrs. Dean, yes. Mr. Willard, yes. Mrs. Feenan, yes. Mr. Rubio, yes. Mrs. Perry, yes. The vote being unanimous, it will be recorded as such. The next item of business was to discuss the special assessment and plan to pay same. Mrs. Dean explained how the assessment is allocated to each apartment based on the percentage of ownership as recorded in the documents. A letter will be provided to each unit owner reporting the amount owed by them and a schedule for payments due. Owners attending the meeting were asked to pick up their letter before leaving. A discussion followed explaining percentage of ownership regulations. It was again explained that notice will go on the bulletin boards with the plumbing schedules for each building. The discussion was closed and Mrs. Dean made a motion to pass the special assessment for $181,000 to give the owners a choice of two plans. First, the assessment can be paid in full by February 1st, 2000. Second payments can be made over 3 months, paying 1/3 on February 1st, 1/3 on March 1st, and 1/3 on April 1st. The work will be started in February 2000 and will be completed in April 2000. Mrs. Perry seconded the motion and called the roll. Mrs. Dean, yes. Mr. Willard, yes. Mrs. Feenan, yes. Mr. Rubio, yes. Mrs. Perry, yes. The vote being unanimous, it will be recorded as such. The next item of business was to pick the contractors. Mrs. Dean explained that all the... Mrs. Dean explained that all the contractors were asked to bid on exactly the same package, and both she and Mr. Willard were impressed with each of the contractors and how they presented themselves. The name of the contractors and the amounts of the bids are as follows. Plumbing Pros, Inc., $176,250. Four Star Plumbing, $175,620. Brento Enterprising, $177,000. Mrs. Feenan stated Mr. Willard's first choice is Plumbing Pros. One of his reasons is that they have agreed that if any owner needs plumbing work done in their apartment, they will do the work at a reasonable cost to the owner. A contingency of $5,000 has been built into the assessment, and it was explained by Mrs. Feenan that if the money is not needed, it will revert back to the owners either as a refund or a credit. Questions were raised from the floor and a short discussion period followed. Mrs. Dean made a motion to accept Plumbing Pros as the contractor for the amount of $181,000. Mrs. Perry seconded the motion and called the roll. Mrs. Dean, yes. Mr. Willard, yes. Mrs. Feenan, yes. Mr. Rubio, yes. Mrs. Perry, yes. The vote being unanimous, it will be reported as such. Under unfinished business, Mr. Rubio read the letter that will be sent to each owner explaining their share of the assessment. In regard to the closets, Mr. Willard explained they must be cleaned out by the owner. The contractor will remove and replace the original wooden shelf. Any modified shelving must be removed by the owner. Mr. Willard addressed the situation regarding the gates and security. He explained the Board of Directors have no responsibility in regard to the personal safety of residents. Parks have been ordered for the gates and will be operating as soon as they are received. There being no further business, the meeting was adjourned at 9:30 p.m. Respectfully submitted.
If there are no corrections required or requested, I will file them in the record.
Yes, please do.
Being no objection, the minutes will be filed as read. The next order of business will be the consideration of the reinstatement of the amendment to Article 7 to issue declaration to condominium documents. Before we get into discussion about it, I'd like to say one thing as a statement about it, then we'll discuss it in detail. There was a brochure put out in the last evening that sometime that is totally incorrect, it's misleading, and the only portion of it that is true and factual is the article itself. First of all, anybody that is an owner that at this point in time, or a leased resident, will not lose their animal. Their animal by law will be grandfathered in. They will take their animal, that they will come to the office, not with their animals, they will come to the office to register their animal. That pet can stay with that apartment as long as their list is referred to the owners. A new person coming with a pet that he interview, if they have a pet, will not be allowed. As I didn't realize until today, Boyakov published a piece in the iRiser that said exactly, Dennis copied that if anybody wants it, exactly what we're doing, the proper thing to do. Now I'll open it up to discussion amongst the board, and then after the board discusses it, then give their point of view on it, we'll take some questions from the audience.
First.
Well, whatever.
This is, as I understand it, the board is reinstating this amendment, is that correct?
Correct.
Reinforcing it, okay. Are we not required to give a 14-day notice to the unit owners of this?
No.
We're absolutely sure of that.
Well, we asked when we had our conference, and they said it's just a board of directors meeting, and 48 hours notice. We put it up a week so everybody could read it. We're not doing.
Can everybody hear Mrs. Dean?
No,
Oh,
all right.
wait, here. Use your.
All right, we had a conference with the lawyer. We're doing exactly as he instructed. We're not changing anything. We're just going to enforce an amendment to the documents that were filed, I believe it was in 1980. In passports, they just let the pets come, who knows why, but the pets are here, and none of us want anybody to get rid of their pets. We went to the lawyer, and we are doing exactly, and Mr. Polyakov also says exactly what we're doing now.
48 hours.
A board of directors meeting, yes, this is not anything but a board of directors meeting, which has to be posted 48 hours. We're not passing anything.
Right.
We're just notifying that we're going to enforce that law. We're not changing a word, we're not amending, we're just going to
No, I
enforce it.
understand